You're 31, filling out a loan application at a folding table in a strip mall office in Memphis, Tennessee, trying to buy a gas station that pumps 65,000 gallons a month and smells like stale coffee and motor oil. 15 years later, a private equity firm wires $2.67 million for the land under your 3 stations, and a separate buyer pays $2.54 million for the businesses on top of them. Total, $5.2 million. Not for the pumps, not for the lottery tickets, not for the coffee machine that broke 3 times in one summer, for the land underneath it all. This is how far you can go owning a gas station. If you like breakdowns of how businesses actually grow from the inside, subscribe. New video every week. 6 pumps, 1 register, everything you have. The station has been on the market for 14 months. The previous owner ran it for 11 years and burned out somewhere around year 8. The books show $1.1 million in annual revenue. The profit margin on fuel is 4 cents a gallon. You do the math on a napkin. The money is not in the gas. The asking price is $410,000. You put $180,000 down. Every dollar you saved working regional sales for a distributor, plus $40,000 borrowed from your father-in-law, who tells you once and never again that he thinks this is a mistake. The SBA loan covers the rest at 6.8% over 10 years. You take the keys on a Tuesday morning in March. By Thursday, you know 3 things. The walk-in cooler compressor is failing. The overnight cashier has been shorting the register by $40 to $60 3 nights a week for at least 4 months. And the previous owner priced cigarettes 80 cents below every competitor within 2 miles because he stopped caring what the margin was. You fix all 3 by the end of the month. The overnight cashier doesn't come back from her next shift. The cigarette price goes up. The compressor repair costs $4,200 that you put on a credit card because the business account has $6,100 in it and you need the buffer. First month net, $3,800. The gas is not the business, the store is. A gas station that sells only fuel and lottery tickets is a bill payment system. You collect thin margins on a commodity, hand most of it to the fuel supplier, and hope enough people come inside. The average gas station in America earns less than 2% net margin on fuel. At 65,000 gallons a month and $3.40 a gallon, that is $221,000 in monthly fuel revenue, generating under $4,400 in net profit, after taxes, credit card fees, and supplier costs. The store is different. A fountain drink that costs you 18 cents sells for $1.49. A hot dog that costs 60 cents sells for $2.19. Coffee that costs 22 cents a cup sells for $1.89. The margins inside that 900 square foot store run between 35 and 55% on everything that isn't a controlled substance with a price floor. You hire a woman named Carol, 53 years old, ran the deli counter at a grocery chain for 19 years before the store closed. She rebuilds the food program from scratch. Fresh roller grill, morning coffee rotation, a grab-and-go cold case that actually stays stocked. Within 6 months, inside sales are up 34%. Carol costs you $38,000 a year. She generates more than 3 times that in margin improvement. The regulars notice. A gas station is a neighborhood institution. The same 200 people come in every week. When the coffee is right and the bathroom is clean and the person behind the counter knows your name, they stop at your pumps first. Always. Year 2 net, $67,000. The second station changes the math. A competing station 2 miles north closes when the owner dies without a succession plan. His family wants out in 30 days. The location pumps 48,000 gallons a month, has a functioning car wash, and sits on a corner lot at a 4-way stop that sees 22,000 cars a day. You offer $290,000. They take $305,000. You finance through a local community bank bank that already knows your first station's numbers. The loan officer is a man named Dennis. He has approved 17 gas station acquisitions in 12 years. He tells you the car wash alone should cover the debt service if you run it right. He is correct. The car wash was charging $6 for a basic wash. You raise it to $8 and add a $12 option with tire shine and air freshener. Volume drops 11%. Revenue goes up 19%. You stop apologizing for charging what the market will pay. You promote a woman from your first station, a cashier named Rita. She has worked every shift you've asked without complaint and memorized the inventory system faster than anyone you've hired. You make her assistant manager of the second location. She is 26 years old. She runs it like she owns it. 2 stations. Combined revenue, $2.6 million. Year 4 net, $118,000. Then the fuel contract expires. Your supply agreement with the regional distributor runs out in year 5. The renewal terms come back 11% higher on the wholesale price. You are not a branded station. No Shell, no BP, no ExxonMobil flag above the canopy. That means you negotiate directly. You call 4 other distributors, get 3 quotes back. The spread between the highest and lowest is 6 cents per gallon. At 113,000 combined gallons per month, that is $6,780 a month, $81,360 a year. In the difference between a bad decision and a good one, you take the lower quote. The distributor asks you to brand under their regional flag. You agree. New signage costs $14,000. You negotiate the distributor into covering half. The brand brings a loyalty app. Loyalty app customers pump 22% more gallons per visit than cash customers and spend 31% more inside the store. Within 8 months, you can see it in the numbers without running a report. You can see it in the parking lot. Year 5 net, $164,000. Year 7, the underground tanks. Federal EPA regulations require inspection and potential replacement of underground storage tanks depending on age and material. Your first station has tanks installed in 1987. Steel, single wall. The inspector flags them as priority replacement. The quote comes in at $180,000. Excavation, new fiberglass double-wall tanks, soil testing, permit fees, and state environmental compliance filing. You do not have $180,000 liquid. You have $94,000 in the operating reserve and a line of credit with $60,000 available. You pull the permits, hire the contractor, close the station for 11 days during replacement. 11 days of zero fuel revenue at location 1. Rita covers the overflow at location 2. Carol keeps the inside sales running on reduced hours. The State Environmental Fund covers $42,000 of the cost, a program most station owners never apply for because they don't know it exists. Your accountant finds it. The accountant costs $4,800 a year. She has saved you more than that every single year since year 1. You reopen on a Thursday. The regulars come back the same day. First week back. Best fuel volume since you took the keys. 3 stations. Year 10. A third location comes available 8 miles from your original station. Newer build. 2009 construction. 8 pumps, double-wall tanks already compliant. 1,400 square foot store and a small attached bay the previous owner never properly permitted. You buy it for $520,000. You do not open the service bay. You convert it into a commissary kitchen for the food program Carol designed. Fresh sandwiches, breakfast burritos, items made daily and distributed to all 3 locations by 6 a.m. The food program changes who comes in. Contractors, construction crews, people who need actual food at 5:30 in the morning and will pay $6.50 for a breakfast burrito that costs you $1.80 to make. The inside margin on prepared food runs 62%. It is the highest margin product in any of your 3 stores. Carol gets a 12% raise and the title of operations manager. She is the single most important hire you have ever made. 3 stations. Combined revenue, $4.9 million. Year 10 net, $290,000. The land call comes on a Wednesday afternoon. A private equity firm out of Nashville has been acquiring gas station real estate across the Mid-South for 3 years. They don't want to run stations, they want to own the land under them and lease it back to operators at fixed rates. Your first station sits on 0.8 acres at a signalized intersection in a Memphis suburb that has added 14,000 residents in the past 6 years. The land appraises at $1.1 million. The business, the pumps, the equipment, the store, the goodwill, valued separately at $980,000. Your second station, the corner lot at the four-way stop, land, $890,000. Business, $740,000. Your third station, newer build, food program, commissary, land, $680,000. Business, $820,000. Total land, $2.67 million. Total business, $2.54 million. Combined, $5.2 million. More than 4 times what you paid across all 3 acquisitions. You sell the land on all 3. You sign 15-year leaseback agreements. Your monthly rent across all 3 stations is $18,400. Your combined net profit is $290,000 a year. You are now a tenant in buildings you used to own. The Wire hits on a Friday. Carol is running the morning food prep at location 3. Rita is opening location 2. Dennis calls to congratulate you. You tell him you couldn't have done the second acquisition without him. He says he knows. A folding table in a strip mall office, $180,000 down. A walk-in cooler on its last compressor, and a cashier stealing $40 a night, and 15 years of cleaning bathrooms that nobody notices until they're dirty, stocking shelves at 5 a.m., and figuring out that the gas was never the business. Carol still runs the food program. She negotiated her own raise after the sale closed. You gave it to her without discussion. Rita manages 2 locations now. She is 31 years old. Dennis approved every acquisition you brought him until he retired last year. Never turned one down. His replacement approved your next one in 11 days. The pumps run every day. The land doesn't care who owns it. You spent 15 years thinking you were in the gas station business. Turns out, you were buying land the whole time. The only question that ever mattered, how far were you willing to go? Subscribe if you want to see how far the next one goes.